Hello everyone, this is Food is a Conversation Alumni Edition, session 68. While I'm waiting for my guests to join me today, let me tell you what are these sessions about. We are introducing all of the ecosystem members who attended any of the educational programs organized by the Future Food Institute. So Innovation Master Program or summer schools in different topics, or the Food and Climate Shaper boot camps, what we organize together with the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. Hi, Takshama.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Very well. Thank you for
I just
having
quickly Good. Sorry. I will just quickly finish the intro. So it will be a very casual conversation of around 20-30 minutes. So please feel free to stay with us the entire time. And also I encourage everyone to post questions in the chat if you have any. We will try to accommodate them. If, however, you cannot stay with us, don't worry, because we will post the conversation on our IGTV. So you will be able to watch it afterwards, along with the other 67 conversations we had with inspiring food and climate shapers from all over the world. And so this is part of a series, and I'm very happy to introduce you all these different profiles who are telling you what actions are they taking towards a better food system, what are their local food system issues, and how did they actually turn out to be part of our community. So this being said, I would like to hand over to Takshama Pandit, and I would like to ask you to tell us where you are dialing in from and how did you end up on the bootcamp last year?
So I'm dialing in from Mumbai, India, and I was a part of the boot camp that happened in November. I actually came to know about it a couple of years ago via Elizabeth and Anusha, who are a part of Edible Issues, since they had visited our restaurant to do something along the lines of a sustainability audit. And that's kind of how the thought came in. And I was very keen to do the offline boot camp a couple of years ago. But then when COVID happened, I ended up having a lot of time on my hands, and then I saw that you all are doing an online version, and it's more of a hybrid thing. And then Elizabeth kind of went on, "You need to do it again. It's great," and people were giving great feedback. So then I thought, why not sign up again? And that's how it happened.
Amazing. Was that the first digital learning experience what you had?
It was the second. I had just done a course in public policy, which started off at the onset of COVID and got over right before the boot camp started. So.
Okay, so you already have some experience. What do you think was the main added value of the program being digital, or what were the main takeaways what you had from after the 4 weeks together with us, intensely together with us?
Yeah, I think one was the fact that if I would have been in an offline program, I would have had to enroll for one, which would be either the oceans or the farms, etc. But because it was online, I got to engage in as many possible, and I was very greedy and wanted to take part in more. I also think what is great is that I got a global perspective to things and to food systems that were around the world, because I had an opportunity to interact with people across different countries with very different food systems. And I think that was a great learning. And what happened, because a lot of the activities were oriented towards connecting and reconnecting with people in our local systems, I got to understand a lot more about what is my current food system, how is it being impacted by COVID, how is that, it kind of also brought into light how can we make these more resilient in the future. So I think a lot of that was because of the boot camp itself. And the other.
Four-week part-time program, this time a bit longer because
Hello, am I back?
yes, you are. Okay, great. Perfect. So back on
I'm so
track.
sorry.
I was telling everyone that we are talking about the digital bootcamp, and there is another running program right now. But you were at the point saying that you had different perspectives to look at because the classroom
Yeah.
was diverse. And yes.
Yeah, so we had people, I think even the last part of it was, I was working with people from all over, which was a great chance to kind of get different perspectives in. So I think that was one of the better things about the boot camp, which was an opportunity I wouldn't have had otherwise. So yeah.
I remember your hackathon team was working on circular systems,
Yeah.
and your solution was called Conscious Consumers Collective. I
Yes, it was.
think it was definitely CCC. So, can you tell us a bit about that project and what challenge were you trying to solve with that?
So what we were trying to do is, so it was because two of our cohort members were from Italy. We chose Vienna. The other one was joining in from Iceland. So we chose Vienna as the focus of our study. Am I still there? I'm sorry. Now I'm
I think
petrified of
Verona.
losing connectivity.
No, I can hear you, and I think it was
Oh yeah, sorry.
Verona.
Yes, sorry, Verona. And the idea was, how do we make the entire city more sustainable? How is it that we get the different stakeholders kind of involved and more engaged in forming a sustainable food system, but also link it and incentivize it? Because it's one thing we realize is that it's very hard to change consumer behavior because a lot of people are motivated. But when it actually comes to taking actions, that is something where if you provide an equipment or a tool or some sort of motivation, it assists them in living more sustainable lifestyle. So that is a little bit about what the collectives was, and it was kind of joining consumers, citizens, as well as government together, because sustainability isn't a one factor job. It has to be done by different people in the city, and they need to kind of come together. So that is a little bit what the hackathon project was about. So yeah.
Yeah. So you already had connection to the food system, not only through the way of consumption before, but you also run an account called Food is Political. You also worked in a restaurant, so you have very different touch points to the food system. So I would like to understand, what is your mission? What are the actions, what you are planning to take right now?
So Food is Political essentially started as a platform for learning. It is where I'm trying to understand how the geopolitical context affects food. So as I told you earlier, that I done a course in public policy, and that played a huge role in helping me understand the Indian systems better. Now, the idea was to then focus back on how is this impacting food, because in India especially, we have a large number of population that is engaged in the agricultural sector. So it ranged from me kind of having an overview of the topic, and for instance, the idea was coffee, right? And I wanted to understand, what does shade grown mean? What is fair trade? But only when I started having conversations with people who were working in this industry did I realize that what is the impact of coffee on biodiversity, and how does it link back to the food system, to the people who consume it. In the light of COVID, we had these anti-Chinese sentiments that kind of arose. And we actually do have a very high number of Chinese Indian immigrants, especially on the East Coast. So how does it impact them? How does it impact the Chinese Indian restaurants, And that was what I was trying to understand a little bit through Food is Political. Where I'm trying to go right now is to specifically understand agro waste, because in India, again, especially in the Konkan belt, which is the coast that I am located on, there's a lot of waste that is being generated. So for instance, I was researching Feni, which is a local liquor in the Sunshine State of Goa. And I realized that it's being produced by, so your cashew nut hangs at the bottom of the apple. And the apple right now is being used at a very small scale along the coast, but most of it is going waste. And then by that I mean like thousands of tons every season. So the idea is to also work and understand how can we add value to this waste, and how is it that we can engage more local communities to create an income for them, but also preserve the nutrition that otherwise would have been lost. So yeah.
Wow, amazing. And how do you see that your experience from like other work experiences can contribute to this? Because you were looking at the food system from a different angle. Do you think that you can bring some of the knowledge over and actually implement it on a way that it can be helpful?
So my past experience was in hospitality, where I was an assistant manager at a restaurant, and I think that it helped me have a very deep sense of understanding of one part of the value chain, which is very consumer oriented, which is understanding what consumers want. How is it that we can essentially tell them a story about a product? So if you give them an ingredient, and tell them this is great and you should try this out, and it's been made into this dish, it's not enough. You need to tell them the story of where it's come from. You need to tell them a little bit more about what inspired you to really produce that dish and sell it to them and plate it. So I think that experience is very important, because it is the storytelling of it that helps to connect to one side of the value chain, but also a lot of my conversations and my education in the past 1 year has been more hands-on with the other side of the value chain that I hadn't been exposed to, which is the farming side, the agriculture side, and also how policy can act as a toolkit to really create a change and connect farming as well as people in a very broad sense. So, yeah.
Amazing. So I know that you are also working on another project or event together with Elizabeth, who you mentioned before, and who, by the way, was already interviewed for this session. So I encourage everyone to watch out for Elizabeth York on one of the sessions. And so you are organizing an independent dialogue for the UN Food System Summit. Can you please tell me about that a bit?
So Elizabeth and I connected over the UN Food System Summit, which is happening at a global level, and we were wondering, give you the opportunity of doing it at a local level, at an independent state, and kind of feeding back the information to the larger body. We thought these, and we were looking out for a topic. Now, around the time we were exploring the different we could take, and obviously kitchen, chefs, hospitaling we connect on, at edible issues also, at food is political is we considered, but around the time we were exploring the budget, and we realized that the government has allocated 637 crores to the development of seaweed. And how is it that would, and we started reading up and talking to people about how what is the impact of seaweed, which is when we kind of went and spoke to people who were saying that, okay, these are the ways that seaweed can benefit us. And then I said, we need to contextualize this local level and see how is it really working out. When we were here, we realized that though we're getting funding, though people are there, it is a socially and environmentally exploitative industry to some extent. And then we started thinking about, we connected Gabriela de Cruz, who's a marine conservationist, and she's situated in Goa and is looking very closely at the Goa seaweed biodiversity. And we thought about how is it that we can now create a value which is more socially and environmentally. We have around 841 species of seaweed in India alone, and most of the work is being done on 2 coasts. It's primarily being done by women in these communities, and we want to make sure that they get a higher price for it, that it is safer for them to be engaging in this sense of harvesting and production. And we want to make the value chain more more sustainable, but not just in the production, but also in the harvesting and the consumption part of it. So the summit is a 3-day dialogue, which includes 2 days of activities like tide pool walks, explorations, conversations, a lunch that is being around seaweed, exercise to look at what the present is, but how is it that we can propel ourselves in the future. And the last day is a summit which is open to everyone. So that's a little bit about what we're doing.
Wow. So when is this event happening?
So it starts on the 30th of April and goes on till the 2nd of May. And the online summit will be on the 2nd of May.
Amazing. So that means that basically the first few days are for local food system actors in person, most probably, if it's allowed. And then even others from other parts of the world can dial in if they would like to contribute to this topic, right?
Yes, exactly. So the idea is to create a space where we have people from technology, from the coastal community itself, from policy, from design, from circular systems, from the aspect that would impact seaweed, because seaweed holds a huge, it can be a tool in sequestering carbon and providing alternate means, but it can also be a tool which can devastate the ecosystem if not conducted correctly. So the idea is to bring in, and what we've seen in India in the past is that we need to have more inclusive conversations, and the idea of the summit is to be as inclusive as possible to every different stakeholder that would engage with CP.
Yeah, amazing. And so everyone who is out there, please watch out for the space, in the space, edible issues and food is political, for the dates and how you will be able to sign up. Especially with the alumni network, we will definitely share. So I hope that you will get some participation from that angle as well. And now we actually approach our last question, what I ask from everyone on these sessions, and that's about how do you imagine your preferred food future? And I am losing you. So while I'm waiting for Takshama to reconnect, hi, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Yes,
so we are like the last question, your preferred food future, and I always offer everyone to either, you can explain both, but think utopistic, where you don't care about any barriers what is currently existing, or you can go realistic and take into consideration what are the obstacles what we might need to overcome in order to achieve your future.
So I look at it
so how is
two ways. One is something, so one is something I don't have an answer to, but it's something that conversations with people. So we always talk about locally sourced, about things being having low carbon emissions, with kind of building more resilient food systems in our economies. But because one question, and I think one mentors at the food system bootcamp gave me a great answer and a great direction in terms of thinking about this, is that how is it that we integrate trade with them? So for instance, Japan imports a lot of the food, New Zealand exports a lot of, and their economies depend on this. So how is it that we can also without impacting the economy make these transitions? If we have to do it at scale, how is it that we can do this in a systemic way rather than having these smaller movements? Is there a way that we can turn our economies to be more resilient? Now, that also brings me back to India, because India, again, a very large number of people depend on agriculture. So how is it that we can make, especially India, because I understand it a little better, is make it a more inclusive system? How is it that we can have of the benefits going back to the farmers, and also address the double issue that we face? We have a double burden in India where we have very high rates of malnutrition because the right food isn't reaching them. But we also have high rates of obesity, we have high rates of cardiovascular diseases, etc. So the idea is, how do we kind of get, that is my focus primarily, is how do we get the food system to be kind of be received by people who are in the malnourished category, but also in the obese category. So how is it we kind of, the food future is more about an equitable food system that is more inclusive, one that where the farmers have in what is being done, which we've seen past they do not have. So it's a little bit about changing the way we are having these conversations in India. And it is very tricky because in India we don't look at it at a state issue. I mean, at a central issue, it is a state issue. So each has different regulations. So I think it starts off with us linking very locally. So the global problem is a little different and the local problem is a little different. But I think these are the two things I would like to focus on in the future. So yeah.
Amazing. Well, Takshama, thank you so much for sharing all this with us. It was a very insightful session. For those who joined us only now, don't worry, because we will post the conversation on our IGTV, so you will be able to watch it in your free time. And please stay tuned. Next week, Tuesday, is our next session in the evening at 6:30 Central European Time, so evening for us in Europe and during that time zones. And that's it. I think that was it. Thank you so much, Takshama. Again, see you very soon.
See you. Thank you for having me.
Bye.
Bye.